Our offer of $1.24 per acre is greater than the 47 cents per acre that white men are now paying the California Indians for their land. That is an excerpt from an interview with Earl Livermore, shown on screen here. The indigenous people of the American West were expected to sell their land to the white man for basically nothing. There were good reasons that white settlers thought that this would work. How are they good reasons, you ask? Well, I think that the fact that they have stuck around until today is great proof that they were good reasons. That's right, they're still around today. There are many examples of what this looks like, but I think that the strongest, most versatile is homelessness. That is the example I will be exploring with you over the next 7 or so minutes. It's worth noting that the oppression of Native Americans today is not what I am discussing. I'm discussing how they were oppressed and how this oppression has simply shifted in form, but still exists today. How do I measure if these forces actually hurt Native Americans if all the witnesses to those events are dead? The answer is through happiness studies of their living descendants today. We can see that through a happiness study by Amanita Beckstein, that the oppression of Native Americans was and is affecting us today, and we figure that out by representing all of the part of what makes people happy, how Native American culture affects that, and how the oppression of that culture affects it further. I don't have time for the specific details of why, but I highly recommend that you read her paper. Holistic frameworks are one of the forces that caused the oppression of Native Americans, and now cause it for others. Many homeless people are oppressed, looked down on, and not given what they need to be functioning members of society again. Later I'll look at how stereotypes are largely untrue, and it is impossible to determine if they are by looks alone. In Catherine Burnett's paper on how holistic frameworks help explain violence and oppression towards Native Americans, she determines that holistic frameworks are largely responsible for oppression because of how Native American tribes do not fit into the framework of traditional American families. This image shows a holistic framework. It's labeled Risk and Protective Factors in an Ecosystemic Framework of Historical Oppression, Resilience, and Transcendence. This shows a few things. One is the layers in which we see people and make assumptions about them. Shown here, people make assumptions through these layers. For Native Americans, society might look like every tribe altogether. This isn't true, and tribes are more than the sum of their individual selves. Next, you'll find community and culture. This one is portrayed poorly by the media. They want your attention. They find bad examples to make you angry or sad or mad, portraying cultures like that of Native Americans or the homeless poorly. Then you reach family. This is a layer that takes effort on your part to reach, that most people are pushed away from before ever reaching. They are revolted by the negative stereotypes from media portrayals of culture, or one bad accident spoiling the entire society. For homeless people, seeing one group of them doing something unpleasant could ruin your thoughts about all homeless people. It takes effort, but at the family and individual level, you start to see what makes this oppression unnecessary, cruel, and wrong. Through my research and personal experiences, I have also seen this. One of the forces to explore is pushing back on the desires of a culture, whether it be to reintegrate to society or break away from it. James Wright says in his article about homelessness in contemporary America, one of the most popular stereotypes is that they are all crazy people who have been let loose from mental hospitals. He goes on to claim this is not true, and rightfully so. This crosses over to Native Americans, where one of the most popular negative stereotypes is that they were all savages, heathens, with no culture or significance to us, and at work. Look at these two images. Surely you see some similarities in how Native Americans were portrayed versus how homeless people are portrayed. These images seem similar in message because they are similar in message, that Native Americans and homeless people are not civilized and should not be part of society. For many of the homeless, we can simply be okay with their presence. By being open to the thought of them, we are reducing the oppression they face. I know a man named Lee who is a formerly homeless man. He said to me, the majority of Americans are just one job loss or major accident away from being homeless. This shows how many homeless people are just regular people. Maybe this isn't a perfect parallel to Native Americans. It was the opposite for them. Not wanting to be a part of society, but society wanting them. The same lessons still apply though. We needed to be open to them and their thoughts, getting to know the individuals and how they make a culture. This ties into my third point. Harmful stereotypes are just one of the forces behind oppression then and now. These stereotypes make it hard to take people in as individuals, not looking at the surrounding culture. The individual and the family is very important to understand in Native American culture. In the Orr family's article on tribal governance, they explore how Native Americans used to split into a new tribe when they disagreed on an issue, creating the hundreds of individual tribes we know today, like those on this map here. This was abolished when the reservation system came into effect. Presumably, since this kind of governance was a headache for American reservation management offices, and they didn't care that much. It's similar to the homeless. Governing them all would be a headache, especially considering that some of them, unfortunately, are drug abusers, drunks, and mentally ill. This force made it hard for Native Americans to keep their style of governance, and still makes it hard for homeless people to even stay on the streets. We want to forbid them from living on our streets when they can't find housing, similar to how we wanted to forbid Native Americans from the only form of government they had. If they divided, they lost their reservation, their only home. It is important to be aware that the horrors Native Americans experienced are not exclusive to them. The same forces are in motion today, affecting millions in the United States. There are other people oppressed similar to Native Americans. It is on smaller scales and lower amounts, but for the same reasons. I want you to watch out. Look at where holistic frameworks and negative stereotypes are affecting your understanding of people around you, and see what you can do to fix it. I'm Miles Elkins. This has been my TED Talk. Thank you for watching.